Hi Jeffrey, how you doing? Hope you're well. What's news at your end? I'm doing really well, thank you for asking. Taste is coming back slowly. Not quite there yet, but almost there, I think. So I've gone up to about 50% of my taste and smell come back. So it looks like it's getting there. Because has the reception gone? Let me just check my Wi-Fi. Hang on. Right, the signal should improve now. Thank you, Jeffrey. Well, with time, as experience increases, it gets better, I guess. That's the normal way of things. Twisting the night away. Hey, Chad. So this is a commission pipe. Somebody asked me to make them a Rhodesian, a chunky Rhodesian, and a line. And it's going to be rusticated up to the band there, up to the thing. I've even put a sterling silver band on. That's going to have a little bend, smooth top, but quite a wide custom built E kind of. This is like a modern twist on a custom built, basically. What I need to decide is whether to leave it natural. Obviously this here I'm going to either leave natural or I'll do a contrast stain and the shank as well. The question is this, whether to make that black or to leave it natural. What do you guys think? Any opinions? Thank you, Jeffrey, but I'm asking just for your opinions. Thank you, Extra Pite, very kind of you. I'm on the way. I wouldn't quite say that I'm very talented yet, but I'm on the way. Certainly gaining experience with each pipe that I make. dark, right? Well, the thing is with briar, is that even a very light stain, especially when it's rusticated, it takes on quite a dark hue. So that's, I'm not quite sure yet. I think I need to get a different dye. I've got half a dozen different Feelings, you know, those ones there. But I need the one that's called Tan. And I haven't bought that one yet. It's the next one on my list, really. So I do like the tan colour used by Northern Briars and Ashtons. I do like that bright. It's like a briar colour, but maybe I'll just put a shellac coating on it with no stain at all. So just a shellac coating to seal it and see how that goes. Hi, Mike. My modern twist, my modern take on a custom built pipe which has been ordered by a customer. My first formal commission. And obviously a little bit nerve-wracking because you don't know if they're going to like it. I mean, the guy, when I asked him for what he wants, all he said was a chunky Rhodesian. He gave me some basic measurements, and he said that he likes custom built pipes. So that's I'm gonna thank you, Mike. I've had a lot of people ask me, but I've never accepted them. I've had a lot of people ask me to do commissions, but I never formally accepted them. I have had some like relaxed arrangements whereby I would say to people, you know, what is it you're looking for? And then I'll say, well, look, next time I do that pipe, that kind of shape, you'll get a first refusal. But I kind of just wanted to continue as I was, going with the flow, making the pipes that sort of, that the briar kind of spoke to through in the briar. But see, for instance, this pipe was going to be smooth, and it was only because of one flaw. When I say flaw, but it's not a flaw, it's just a mark. It's not a hole or anything like that, and that essentially scuppered the whole. Literally one small thing, but it just was in such a crucial spot, and I thought maybe part rusticating, but I really don't like part rusticated on the bowl. You can do certain sections like smooth rim, smooth shank, rusticated bowl, but the ones which are sort of, although I've done them myself, but I just don't like them. So so just bear with me a second. Just 1 second, please. All right. Hi, Horatio. I just think that it's a really hard thing to implement in an attractive way, to do half rusticated and half not, unless there's a distinct zone, like, you know, half and half or that kind of thing, like this. But some companies do it really, really well. I mean, recently, Mastro de Paya, he's been coming out with some stunning pipes, you know, and which are part rusticated, but he has an amazing way of zoning out. He carves out like very distinct lines and things like that. I don't know how he does it, but his pipes really, really, some of them are stunning, absolutely stunning. So this particular pipe I'm rusticating with a very shallow rustication because I don't want to lose the shape of the pipe. I've spent a lot of time shaping this pipe and I absolutely love the way it looks. The bowl just looks fantastic. I just love that shape there. And so I don't really want to spoil that or alter that in any way. Sometimes a deep rustication can change it slightly, and I wanted to stay faithful to that shape. So I'm just doing a shallow rustication. So it's not as craggy as I sometimes do. I don't know if you guys saw my package opening before. I picked up this Duncan Briars for less than £50, brand new unsmoked on eBay, and I'm going to convert this to 9mm. It's quite a big pipe. I've been enjoying big pipes recently, and I've been now specifically looking on eBay for pipes that I can convert, pipes that are basically freehand, that have got a straightforward shank, you know, nothing that I have to worry about lining up the stem or anything like that. And that's a simple way for me to just convert some pipes. It's drilled well, and for less than 50 quid, absolute steal. Duncan Briars, you got the D there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Perhaps I'll do that when I finish this one here. Yeah, A.B. Brown as well. I am a follower of his, and he does a lot of those. I mean, most of his pipes are really quite similar actually. He's got that down really to a fine art. He's really doing that really nicely. Safe. And also, when you get to the edge, when you've got a line, you've got to go easy with the rustication because it can just gouge a big chunk out. If it takes a little bit out, it doesn't matter because it's a rustic looking pipe. Inlays on stems, it's funny you should say that. I don't know if you saw my video last night. I talked about something I want to do to make some kind of mark, some kind of identification on my pipe. So a lot of people like the white spot. Northern Briars has got a briar dot. So I was actually speaking to one of my boys. He's a 25-year-old and he works in the jewellery trade. So I'm looking into something which we'll see if it comes off. I've asked him to get me some samples, and I've talked to him about specific sizes. So I don't want to give any specific details until I've really seen it and seen that it's viable. I don't like talking about stuff and then not doing it. It just makes you sound stupid. So I'm going to wait and see. I've also looked at some laser engravers. I think I'm going to get one. You can get some cheap ones, you know, for like £100, £150, and you can spend a few £1,000s. So I have to sort of do some more research on it. A 9mm Lovat. Well, obviously being 9mm, Mike, it's going to have a certain girth to it. But I'd be happy to give that a go for you if you like. No strings attached, no commitment. If you're interested, if you are, just give me a shout. We'll work out what you're looking for. This is a little sort of rustication tool which I made on the grinder for those difficult to get bits. So I can't use that tool to get to that. So Haven't seen a video from you in a long time, Mike. No, I haven't rusticated my palm yet, thank God. I've mullered up my hand and fingers on the lathe, and I cracked a couple of my nails tonight as well. But thankfully, I have not yet rusticated my palm. These kind of tight areas are really a pain in the neck because it doesn't have that same uniform look, because you can't get the full twist, and it just doesn't. I mean, once it's usually if it's going to be stained, it's not a problem because it's just all a rough, craggy, rusticated kind of look, and you paint it black and you stain it black, and you know it all kind of gets absorbed into a rough blackness. But if you don't do it dark, so that's the rustication done. And I've just realised that I haven't left an area to stamp, but I'm not using my stamp at the moment anyway. But so I'm now going to hand sand the shank. It's already been sanded up to about 400 grit on the wheel, but I still prefer to have another go at it by hand. Guglielmo Picciocci. Thing is that when you get into making a pipe and you kind of get into the zone, time just absolutely flies. You know, sometimes people ask me, how long do I spend making a pipe? And they're really just trying to work out, you know, what the cost is per hour or something like that. People always want to know what you're earning, and I just lose track of time. And before I know it, 4 hours has just gone. It's unbelievable when you sort of get into a zone making a pipe. Time just flies. There it is. William, okay. Never apologise for your name, William. Just because somebody can't pronounce it doesn't mean that you have to apologise for it. Hey Kev, that happens to you when you go live? What's that? Sorry, there must be a bit of a delay on the comments. What happens to you when you go live? Oh, 4 hours, yeah. When I first started doing the lives, I was doing crazy amounts of time as well, 3 hours at a time on the Saturday nights. But I still go to 2.5 hours. But your ones are very engrossing, let's put it that way, because you cover such a wide range of topics. And like the music one you did the other night, it was like listening to the radio, you know, it's a radio program, and it was lovely. Great. As Mike said in his glorious shout out, you've got a very nice, relaxing voice to listen to. I was listening this morning to Charlotte. I call him Charlotte, other people call him Onion. 2 a.m. pipe on a patio. Also very, very relaxing. I actually recorded a video to copyright blocks. So does that mean that the whole video is not been left up, or you've had to put some, or they've just muted it out? How does that work? A little bit of a bend there just to bring it back down. For inspiration, I printed out a picture of a custom built pipe, so you can see some aspects of it there, but I've given it a really sort of big, what do you call it, a ring, as opposed to the thin Rhodesian style ones, just to be different. I had that once with a video that I did a while back, and I had some violin as a background music, some violin playing. But a lot of times I've done videos with the same violin, the same number in fact, and it went through. So go figure. How many LHSs have you got now, Mike? You must have a fair old collection by now. I'm not sure what the grain is on this shank. I know it's got some straight grain going up the side, but I'm not sure if I've got any bird's eye on the heel, on the base of the stem rather. So as I get up on the grit, I'm looking forward to seeing what's lurking beneath. See, once, you know, because when you get the staining done, and you get a bit of contrast staining going, Doesn't always matter if you have a fantastic grain. As long as you've got some contrast, it just creates an interesting aspect. But it certainly is nice if you do get a nice grain. There's some pipes you just don't want to sell. This is one of them. Sometimes you just don't want to part with a pipe. And usually, I know when I've done that, I know that I've got that kind of scenario. If it's a pipe, when I look at it, it's a pipe that I would consider buying myself. And I would. I think I've got another LHS. Did I send you or sell you or give you that really one with a deep sort of pattern on the bowl? I think you originally got it for me, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think I bought it on eBay actually. But maybe it was sent to you from American eBay. I don't recall. Well, I don't seem to have any. Well, maybe I've got some in my new boxes, some 320. No. Well, I think I'm going to have to jump to 400. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Yeah, doing well, thank you. Forgive me if I'm not talking that much, but I just want to get on with it. It's not like a London calling session. This is just showing the making of the pipe. Happy to talk as well, but if you've got any questions, fire away. But the other day I did it and I ended up being on for 3 hours and I ended up being up till stupid hour finishing the pipe. So Obviously happy to talk, but I want to carry on while I'm talking. There is some nice grain coming up on the side, and I think there is some bird's eye on the bottom as well. That's good. I was just thinking, actually, I could have left a little bit of a circle underneath smooth to get some of that bird's eye, but I think I did the right decision to rusticate the full bowl. And that will work well with the shank. So we're up to 600 grit. Got to go back down the grits. I've noticed a little bit of an unevenness there, so I'm going to have to, the high grits won't do it. I'm going to go back to a 240, see if that does it, and then go back up the grits. But I might have to go down even more, we shall see. Well, William, a lot of people literally just put the tobacco in and smoke it. Everybody's got their own way. A lot of people say that any kind of coating, honey or anything is just a load of baloney, it's just in your mind. But it's just, what have you done up to now? This is a little bit where my symmetrical eye really causes me a lot of grief, because there's the tiniest deviation which a lot of people wouldn't even see, but I can't leave it like that. I've just got to make sure I get rid of it. And sometimes I end up coming a cropper because I go too far, but hopefully this one we're almost there. And if you can see this, probably not. Let me turn the light off. Yeah, you can see it. If you look right at where the silver, if you look just there, it looks like the silver is just slightly wider there, but it's not. It's just dust which is gathering in a tiny little divot. There. That bit there. Can you see that white protrusion? It's a tiny little divot where I must have caught that when I was sanding or something. So there's a tiny little bit which has dropped in, and so therefore the dust is gathering there. If I brush it, it's gone. You know, you wouldn't even see it, but I can see it. I'm not an OCD kind of guy at all, but my eye catches these things and it bothers me. Well, it depends. William, if you're liking natural blends and you don't like aromatics, stick with the natural blends. I've started enjoying some aromatics recently, but I have found that they need to be good quality, not tasting artificial, you know, not tasting of saccharine, but having a natural sweetness to them, and the flavour lasts in the bowl as you smoke down it. Otherwise, I don't bother with them. A particular one which I'm enjoying at the moment is Solani's blend one, and obviously Golden Sliced, Erinmore. These are all, strictly speaking, aromatics. Orly Golden Sliced, less so. It's got a tiny amount of aromatics in it, but certainly Erinmore. Okay, so now I'm just going to go over. I went up to 800 on the lathe with that up to. Hey Jeffers, how you doing? Greetings to Tennessee. Each time you sand the shank, you've got to make sure that your stem is fully aligned. Otherwise, when you try to align it, it's not quite right. Autumn Evening, if I'm not mistaken, is a maple flavoured tobacco. I think Chad smokes that, if I'm not mistaken. Back up to 800 grit. I usually stop at 800, then I'll do my undercoat of staining, and then sand it back a bit, reveal the grain, and then polish. I used to smoke a lot of Boswell blends, and nowadays it's probably just Northwoods, if any. So even though I sanded this top rim earlier, in order for it to take the stain, I just need to give it another sand just to lift and open the pores a little bit so that it absorbs the stain. When you're dealing with a high grit, with a pipe that's already polished to a high grit, one swipe of the sandpaper can, I wouldn't say ruin it, but it can undo a lot of hard work. So you've got to go gingerly at this stage. The thing is that when you shape on the lathe, it's so precise. The shaping is, because it's on a lathe, so it's perfectly circular. You mess around with it with a sandpaper, you could ruin that circular perfection. So you've got to be really careful, very light touch, and you just let the sandpaper do the work. You don't put any force on it, so that you don't alter the shape. So you're literally just resting the block on it and just moving it from one spot to the next rather than pushing down. Alright, cheers Mike, I'll have a look at that. Is that a Levat that you're talking about, that you want to a shape that you want to get? Or are you just showing me a Rhodesian shape, was it? Okay, can I get another vote on what to do with this rustication? To go dark or leave it light? So essentially, smooth, which I could leave virgin, just polish, or I can do a contrast on that and bring out the grain. And the same with the shank. The question is, do I do this black, for instance? Or just leave it as it is and just seal it in with some shellac? Andrew says leave it light. Jeff says dark. Jeff says dark. I just love this slope here, and then back up there. I just like the shape of it. Got to do some sanding now on this as well. Get that shaped a little bit, get the button shaped. My only problem with doing this dark, it means what I can do is, like I did yesterday with that weird pipe, is I can stain it all the same color, but this will be dark and the smooth areas will be contrast, so dark and light. If I was to do this really light, like almost a tan or a briar color, the difficulty I'll have is here, is the transition between smooth and dark, is to make that look neat, and that's really difficult to do. So I think what I'll probably do is the same as yesterday, is do, it was like a deep, rich, browny, reddy kind of color, like a mahogany. and then just contrast stain these. I'm not sure you get the same returns from a pipe compared to a 5D3, assuming you're making some money from it. I think that deep, rich colour will go well with the silver shack, the silver rim, band. That will contrast nicely. And what will happen is, because there was some nice grain on this, once that stain absorbs, it will show up different shades of the colour due to some of the grain coming up darker. Alright, let's have a look at what we got here. Hey Terry. Hey Chad. Just in time for the staining. So that's with a single coat. It's really quite bright, almost ready kind of colour. Hey Jamie. I've used this stain quite a lot, so I've got to go quite deep into that bottle. I've seen in America the carvers, they've got really big bottles of that. I can't get that here. What about a nice green? No, I'm not into all of that jazz. I'm more into a traditional colours me. And I'm going to be staining the whole pipe. We went through that discussion just now, so it doesn't really matter. That's what I was saying before, is I wanted to perhaps do different light and dark, but the junction of rusticated to smooth is really hard to do in a neat way. Time I finish staining the rusticated part, I'll be able to go back and do the rim again. How you doing, Jimmy Eduardo? Keep dripping the stain everywhere, no wonder there's hardly any left. You can see how that's drying there, quite bright in certain spots. I do need to get some more of this stuff. Right, smoking scissors hammer will go with full Virginia flake for drying. I put it in the oven for 2 hours and it did the trick. Just kidding. It did take a long time. Some people do stove their tobaccos by putting it in the oven. That is not unheard of. But yes, it does need a fair bit of drying time. Although the Scottish Autumn that I've been smoking, that I bought from Tim, that is actually dry from the tin. You can already see the grain now. This is Phoebing's. You see it with all the carvers, they all use this stuff. It's a leather dye. Use it to dye leather. So I'm assuming it's a food safe, not that you're going to lick your pipe, but I guess one can assume that it's food safe. I have been enjoying it. It's a nice, easygoing tobacco, the Scottish Autumn. As I keep saying in the videos, I know I repeat myself a lot, but because my taste isn't fully there, it could be that it's not that smooth and it's not as light and easy any day, or sort of all day kind of smoke. It could be it is more punchy and I'm just not tasting it. But it certainly comes across as a nice tobacco, and I've likened it to Dark Star from McClelland. Not quiet, but it's got certain aspects of that in the type of sweetness that it has. It's an interesting flavour, like a burnt sugar sweetness, like a marshmallowy kind of sweetness to it. This is starting to look nice. The dark rusticated area is looking good. And that should look really nice, because basically when you rusticate with a Ciroc type of rustication, because you're twisting around, you're actually missing parts of it, so you get some smooth bits, and that really picks up the shine, picks up the light very nicely, and it just gives a nice speckled kind of look to it. Hey Rich, hey Hesham. This stain, it's not a polish, this stain is Phoebing's. Hey, Paul. So on the smooth parts, I usually put 7 or 8 layers, 6 or 7, 7 or 8, and that's what gives you the ability to get that contrast of the grain that absorbs nicely. Softer parts of the briar absorbs the stain deeper than the harder parts. So the grain that you see is the softer parts of the briar which has absorbed the stain, and the lighter parts are the harder parts of the briar and that have absorbed less, if any. A gallon of Phoebings. I wish I could buy a gallon. I have to see if I can find out if I can get larger quantities of it. I'm always worried about, you know, these apocalyptical things which could happen, which stop you being able to get something, and you run out, and it literally stops you in your tracks when you're trying to do some work. So some of the composites that I use, the polishing compounds and that kind of thing, I bought, I wouldn't say a huge amount, but a couple of big size bars, so that I've got some in stock, you know, ready. I think I'm coming right to the end of this. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, try something out. If it doesn't work, I can always stain over it. Is I'm going to stain. Just put that on the peg. And let me finish doing the smooth areas. And then I think I'm going to take a different colour, like a red or a purple, and go over that and see if it just picks up those smooth areas to bring out a little bit more colour. By the time you get to the 7th or 8th layer, it's almost black, because it's layer on layer on layer of dye. And even though it's a brown stain, because it's layer on layer, it gets really, really deep. And then you take it off and reveal the grain. I think I paid around somewhere between 7, 8 or £10, something like that, for each bottle. I don't remember. Maybe 7.50, something like that. It's not cheap. I mean, it's only a couple of 100 ml. No, it's 118 ml, so it's not much at all. You could almost take it on an airplane. You've been on furlough. Cool. My daughter's a teacher, and she's on furlough. And the government is paying 80% of her salary, but the school are paying the balance of the 20% so that they can get them to do work. And the teachers are spending a lot of time with the kids on Zoom and things like that, trying to just give them some kind of structure. Yeah, well, I guess companies are doing what they can to survive. So people going 1 week on, 1 week off. It's a rough time at the moment for sure for a lot of people. I suppose I have to thank my lucky stars that I started doing this a year ago. I got to the stage where I can actually sell some of the pipes. I was actually speaking about that to my round the table at dinner the other day with my family, and I was thinking that actually a lot of the smaller companies, family-run companies, I think a lot of them will survive. It's companies which employ a lot of people. Those are the ones, who are, and even medium-sized. But if they're not family-run, I think those ones are going to suffer the most because they just can't pay salaries. It's as simple as that. But family-run businesses where they could coast along, even if they have to let some people go. But the core of the business, if they can coast along without having to take a huge wage or a contractual rate, a wage, they can take what they need to survive, but they can somehow sort of coast along without taking out too much from the business. I think those will survive. But it's companies who employ people from the general workforce. I think they're going to struggle big time. You know, even the big companies. I heard there's a big clothing company here called Primark. So I heard some rumor about them closing, and they're huge here in the UK. We buy stuff from them all the time. You know, it's a really at a very good price point, and there's been talk about them going bust. Yeah, I mean, rent and office space, but that's something which the governments are doing something about. I don't know about in the US. Obviously, you got so many people there that the government can't help everybody. But here in the UK, all medium and small businesses are getting tax relief, and they're getting their rates are being zeroed out, and a lot of the landlords are giving rent holidays, and they're working things out because if they don't, they're just everybody's going to go bust. So they have to work things out. There's got to be some mutual interest to help people pull through. Even big businesses. I was on the government's website the other day. Businesses with turnovers of over, I think, I'm talking about big companies with turnovers of over 250 million, or something like that. The government was going to guarantee loans of up to 45 million to help them through this period. And there's a lot of, as I say, a lot of tax relief. There are a lot of protests why they want to get back to business. I don't know. It's there's two schools of thought there. I'm really nervous, not just because I've had the virus, assuming I've had it, but not just because I've had it, but I'm worried about this particular virus, about it resurfacing. I really am. Hey, piano. You know, people start running back to work. I was watching Professor Walker. You know, he was being, you know, I think I mentioned this the other day. He's got his police background, and he's very much into people not losing their rights. And he was saying that the police were going overboard in restraining people and stopping people going about their business. That they were being too draconian about enforcing social distancing. And I basically commented on his video and said that I didn't agree. Obviously, if they go too far and they're literally abusing their rights, then fine. But to stop people, I think it was based on because I think the video was about. Hey Jordan, the video was about the fact that a skate park or a bike park had been blocked off, or they'd filled it with sand or gravel so that it couldn't be used, and he thought that was an abuse of rights. I don't think so. I mean, we go walking around here in the parks. A lot of them are gated and chained, so that you can't go in. There's a kids' park right around the corner here, chained around the gates, so you can't go in. No, at the moment, there's no evidence at all. And I've heard people talk about someone's doctor. I don't remember who it was that I was talking to, but they said that they've had patients who have had it twice. So you got to be careful. Well, we've done the undercoat of the staining, Jordan. Here's the pipe so far. So part rusticated, part smooth. That's not the stem that's going to be on it. I've actually done a stem with a silver band on it as well. So this is actually for my first commission. The guy, he gave me very sort of relaxed, very easy, open instructions, but what he wanted was a chunky Rhodesian, and he told me that he likes custom builds. So what I've done is I've looked up some various pictures of custom builds, and I've just basically gone with a modern twist on a custom built chunky kind of piece of briar. So that's what I've come up with. Had a long chat about the auction, Chad, on a recent live. Some people said, get it done maybe in a couple of weeks' time, make sure it's publicised, and some people said, leave it. Now's not the time. A lot of people don't have surplus money now. They're having financial difficulties. So now's not the time, because it won't generate a decent return for the eventual beneficiaries. So I'm really in two minds, to be honest. So I'm not made up in any way, shape or form. In one way, I'm worried that it's kind of going off the boil and people are losing interest. And on the other hand, we could just regenerate that interest further down the line. I think people's affection for John, for matches, will remain regardless of how much time has elapsed. So whilst I don't really have any firm opinion on it either way, I'm just sitting back and not doing anything. I actually had a message from Dragon Briars from Josh today. He asked me if there was any chance that his pipe had arrived. I feel so bad for him. He's really so cut up. He said he's never had a problem sending stuff to England, or generally, and this year he said he's lost 5 pipes, not all to the UK, but he's lost 5 pipes. And I told him he's sending stuff around the world of that kind of value. You've just got to track it. I send all the pipes with tracking, and there's no other way to do it. It costs money. There's nothing you can do about it, and that's why I nearly always charge when I sell my pipes. I give a price for the pipe plus shipping, because I could even let's say I was selling a pipe for £150 and the shipping cost me, say, £10 or £15. I could say the pipe costs £165 shipped. But I think there's a certain importance there for me psychologically to know that I've charged £150 and that £15 is covering my costs. When the extra £15 covers my costs. It's maybe psychological, but it's also, I suppose, from a selling point of view, you don't want to quote a price of £165. You'd rather quote a price of £150 plus shipping. So because you want people, number one, it sounds better, and number two, you want people to understand that you're covering a cost. So the pipe itself has a certain value, but you're actually covering a cost to get it across the world. So I'm really quite fussy about that I'll always quote the price of the pipe plus shipping. And I've basically done a standard price so people don't think that I'm just making it up as I go along. So I have a standard price for shipping. I charge £7.50 here in the UK, so that can go tracked as well, and I charge £12.50 worldwide. Sometimes it costs more, sometimes it costs less, but that's a flat price which I charge, and it's always the same. So there we go. Hey, Pack and Puff. All right, so I'm gonna just leave that to dry off. It's got a really nice dark, deep dark. It's taken very well, the stain. Happy with that. So I'll do the contrast staining a little bit later on. Now I'm going to focus a little bit on the stem. So I need a 400. And I need a sanding block. It's in front of me, but I can't see it. There it is, hiding inside a piece of sandpaper. UPS transferred my box to the post office today. What box? Hey Harry, oy vey indeed. You're so wild. Good evening, Dwight. Are you all white, Dwight? So what does that mean, transferred to your box? I don't get that. That's obviously an American thing. What does that mean? That's good to hear, Dwight. Oh, I got you. Okay, I'm with you. Subcontracted out to the post office. Is that USPS? United States Postal Service. Hey Boka. Fuddy Rajay, how you doing? I used medium brown, Fuddy. But rather than using the dark, I used the medium and then just coat it 7, 8, 9 times. So it gets really a nice, deep, rich color, which when you then take it off to do the contrast stain, just gives a really nice richness to it. If I would go with the dark brown, it would just lose, I think, some of that richness in the darkness of the staining. It's 11 p.m. I do not believe it. I don't believe it. Doing good, Boca. How are you doing? I enjoyed seeing the clip of that little uh, jetty that you were walking along there with your dog. Really beautiful boats around there. I assume you live around that area. Really beautiful part of the world. Very nice. I do flame the stain. I'm doing it more often nowadays than I used to. I didn't actually do it today, but I do it, yeah. It just helps to burn it into the wood. The only drawback, which I'm not fully decided if it actually is a drawback or if it actually is a problem at all, but I worry that if I do that, that it actually burns the stain into the harder parts of the grain as well, which means that I won't get the contrast. But I've not really experienced that too much, so I'm not really sure yet. But I do it sometimes. Past couple of weeks, I've hardly listened to the news. Hardly. And LBC, which you know I listen to a lot, has been since this pandemic started. And they've said so as well that they're doing that in principle, 24/7, only about COVID-19. Nothing else. No other topics are discussed. And it's just depressing to keep listening to it. Got a little bit of super glue stuck on this stem, and it's not budging. No, I've never bothered with Twitter. Let's be honest. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm just going to have a crack at that on the wheel, see if I can shift that super glue. Bear with me. Sorry about that. That bit of super glue was very stubborn, but I've polished the rest of it up in the process. It's dusty. Can't really see it. Silver's come up really nice. That's real silver, you know. It's worth at least £1. There we go. I think that silver works really nicely, actually. I don't often do bands. Okay, I'm going to pause it there, everybody. Thank you very much. And I guess the next video will be, I'll just do a short video with a finished pipe. It's already spoken for, assuming the guy who ordered it takes it and wants it. So I'll bid you all a good night. Thank you very much for joining, as always. Hope that was interesting. And I hope it wasn't too boring, because I wasn't speaking as much as I usually do. And that's something. But I really was wanting to get it finished up. So catch you all later. Thanks very much. Jamie, Mike, Horatio, Jordan, Boca, Sea Smokes, Paul, Terry, Chad, Jeff, and everybody else. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. I'll catch you on the next one.